Welcome to ORP-TV. I'm Craig Stagner, and we're in Lebanon, Missouri, and I'm at the shop of Mr. Josh Arl. Now, Josh, it's a rainy, icy, cold day, but you got some hot news for us coming up on the season debut of Street Outlaws Memphis. Tell us what you know about it.
Man, there's a lot actually going to go on this year for Street Outlaws Memphis. Brand new show, a lot of things that are happening. Let me tell you what, it is absolutely exciting, especially in the sense that the whole world of list racing and as far as racing other people, those worlds collide, especially with Memphis Street Outlaws. JJ is a personality unlike you've ever seen of anybody in your entire life. And I promise you, in real life, he is just as crazy.
He seems almost like the P.T. Barnum of street racing.
Oh
like
my God.
The greatest show on earth.
You just don't even understand. Even when the cameras are off, that is who that guy is.
Yeah,
He's crazy.
I bet he is. They just pointed. I don't know if he knows when the camera's on, when it's not. They just happen to get film of him being JJ.
That's absolutely truth, and anybody that has been around that guy much knows that that's really the way that he is.
It's an exciting, fun show, and with now the people at Ozark Raceway Park have kind of gotten to know some of the people. You know, Mustang Mike has been through some, and obviously you've been at our No Prep races also. So this debut season coming up here, there's also some others. Ozark Raceway Park, veterans going to be on the show.
Absolutely right. Jamin with his
the
Goodfer, and I'll tell you what,
Hogg, yeah.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. And if you've never seen that car up, it is one of the coolest cars you'll ever see in your entire life. And I'll tell you what, watching that car just do its thing, it's almost like watching the Goonies when the fat kid does the truffle shuffle. You know what I'm saying? It's absolutely hilarious.
yeah. It's gotten a lot of internet fame just because of that giant blower on it.
Man,
That thing's
it's
a
so
beast.
cool. Such a cool car.
Now, who else besides Jamin is going to be on there with
Shane will be there with the Crusty Nova.
Shane McClellan.
Shane will be there with the Crusty Nova. And actually, if you guys have seen any of the previews, you'll see Shane on there, his son. They're bartering back and forth with JJ on how they want this race to crack off. I'm actually standing right beside him, but you'll see it. It gets pretty intense, honestly.
It's great seeing so many of these people that we know start to achieve this kind of fame, and it's how much talent there is right here in the Midwest. What is it about this Midwest area that street racing? I mean, football, quarterbacks come from Pennsylvania, your Montana and Marino and Bradshaw. Something about the Midwest is streetcar central. What is it about this?
Man, I don't know. I know that for myself, I've heard a lot. You hear Chief talk about he was the kid in the backside watching cars go. I'm like, do a burnout. That
Right.
was him. And I'm telling you right now, I know that was the same way that I grew up. I know it was, and I know that my kids, I bet since they were 3 years old, could make it to Ozark Raceway or Gateway or some of the other tracks around.
Mocan and all this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just something about the brotherhood that comes from street or either street racing, track racing, whatever. But man, you meet so many good people, and that brotherhood lasts forever.
Maybe part of it is the demographic and the geography here is that we have a lot of old country roads. Whereas if you get up around St. Louis or something, big cities, there's not the space to do the street racing, except for like on Fast and the Furious, where suddenly there's 8 miles of city streets closed down somehow.
Right.
But here we have areas to do it. So you guys, ever since maybe even before you had a license, you were out doing burnouts racing something.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, it's exactly right, because there's so many country roads, and I have nothing but love and respect for my police department, but I'm telling you right now, we didn't make their job easy either.
And I can guarantee you a lot of those guys, they know where the spots are being raced, because there was a life before they got the badge, and maybe they were out there racing too. So now, do you want to show us a little bit? This car, what is this car?
This car is called Purgatory. It'll actually be on the show on the 15th. It's a 1968 Nova SS car. It's a small block car. Steel Steel, quarters, roof, steel. Look at the front bumper. See that? That's still chrome on the front bumper.
Everybody's talking about the Pro Mod thing. This is a heavy. We're moving this around a little bit. This is a real deal.
Oh yeah, no, it's one of those things that this could be a pro street car.
Yeah.
The motor's turned up to where it's still competitive on the street, but you know, it's a fun, and it's a pretty car. I think. You know, I love these old Novas.
Yeah.
Something about this old school American muscle like this. I mean, a lot of people just like it, and I'm one of them.
The best part about what Street Outlaws has brought back is so many of the NASCAR and the NHRA type cars have become a plastic body with a sticker on it for Dodge or Chevy, and the cars kind of lost their personality. Street Outlaws have brought back Chevy pride, Ford pride, Dodge pride,
Absolutely.
where you can identify, and so many people had Novas growing up that you're like, oh, that looks like my car, you know, so.
Oh yeah, the nostalgia behind it. I'll tell you what, you look at it's like, now how is it that a Star Wars toy from 1950 or 60 brings like 15 grand? Well, it's because of the nostalgia of it.
It brings back that feeling that you had.
It really, really does. You know, and I'm not going to say that I'm old enough, but there's others of us here that probably are old enough that can say
Yeah,
that there's like, man, I look at that and it's like, taking me back.
Yeah. I remember my mom used to race a Nova up on Kearney Street in Springfield. So yeah, I know those. So let's take a look under the hood.
All right, yeah, sounds good. Okay, so for the most part, and this is actually a big question. This is the first one of the questions that I really had too. Is like, man, how much is going on under the hood of these cars? So I'm a fairly open book. We started off with a Dart Little M block. It's got Dart heads. It's a 400 plus cubic inch motor. Can't give everything away.
Now, is this a big block or a small block?
Small block. It is. It's a small block.
Okay.
The weight difference really is a big thing. I mean, this is still a full, you know, chassis car, you know, and so I want to make sure that the weight was kept down and the RPMs kind of up. I do have a power adder. It's a nitrous.
It's not stock.
No.
It's not stock.
No. The biggest, I mean, one of the biggest costs, of course, is in these engines. I mean, you got to figure the block in this car is what, 3,000 from Dart, you know, roughly just to start with, and then you just build up from there. Power adders, you have to have a power adder these days. You know, it's super hard to run out naturally aspirated and go. I use 2 kits from Nitrous Outlet. I really like Dave and those guys, super good guys. So I'm up at PRI. Good dudes to work with. I would recommend Nitrous Outlet to anybody.
Yeah. You hear a lot of times everybody, when they talk about their car motor, they say it's a big block or a small block. For the people who don't really understand, obviously there's a physical difference. What's the difference between a big block engine and a small block engine?
Man, I'll tell you what, you know, there's the old adage, there's no replacement for displacement.
Okay.
So cubic inch wise, you know, the biggest production engine, you know, Chevy had a 400, but the majority, everybody knows, is a Chevy 350. You know, so 350 cubic inches, you know, 454s like in the Chevelles, it's, you know, I mean, that's 100 more cubic inches. So if you're trying to get 1 horse per cubic inch, well, that's another 100 horsepower. That's another, I mean, that motivates a lot of iron going up and down the road.
So you got to weigh out the difference between you're getting more cubic inches, but you're also, with every cubic inch, you're also adding weight. So it's kind of a balance.
It really is, yeah. Unless you can afford to go all aluminum, which is expensive, super expensive, then yeah, you do have to weigh it out. And, you know, I mean, it depends on what you're doing too. It's like if it's at the track, you need a whole lot of horsepower that you can just apply to the wheels. And let's be honest with you, it's a good sticky track. It's going to grab all that horsepower and you're going to go down the road. Street is so much different. You got to set up a street car way different. If you got a ton of weight on the nose of this car, you're going to have problems hooking up in the back.
So what I would relate that to is if you were at the grocery store and you got your empty grocery cart, and you throw a big couple cases of water right in the nose of your grocery cart, and then you try to push it, the back end of it's going to be squirrely.
Absolutely.
Where you've got to get your groceries set in there, kind of spaced out. But that's the way people can kind of understand.
Absolutely.
That's what you're looking for.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And just think about, you know, the small block. It's like, okay, so same thing. You're thirsty, so you're going to put a case of water in the front of your cart. Now, mind you, you've got, let's say, a watermelon in the back, so you got a little bit of offsetting weight. But you're like, how thirsty really are you? Do you want to put one case in the very front, or do you want to put 2 cases in the front? So therefore, big block versus small block.
Gotcha.
Same thing again, where when you're pushing your cart, it's like, hey, this is okay to, oh wow,
Right.
when you're rolling on it.
So you need that real balance of weight.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
and where you place things is huge in cars.
so it's not just about cutting weight; it's about where you're cutting weight and still keeping it balanced.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to think. There's times where I always equate about 7 to 10 horsepower, or 7 to 10 pounds for every 1 horsepower that you're going to gain. But if you think about it, there's times, especially with street racing, you can add weight to the back of a car to give it more traction, and you're actually going to go faster by adding weight versus having the weight off. So, I mean, it's such a balancing game.
Right.
It really
Because
is.
that's where you're pushing from, so you need that weight to get the traction, which is all the more important when you're on a no prep surface.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. You figure when you're doing everything you can to gain that traction as that car launches, it almost, especially on the street, it really kind of needs to stay at this level to where there's some weight on that back end. When the suspension unloads and you're driving your car like that, guess what? Those tires, they're gone.
Which is the whole reason for having the wheelie bars too, is to keep that car kind of leveled out, so that now it looks really cool when Shane McClellan does a 1,320 foot wheelie, or JJ the Boss does it, but it's not real effective for racing.
No, spinning isn't winning, and nor is if your front end's completely up in the air either. Wheelie bars are awesome, especially whenever you're going down like this and gone. Wheelie bars also work like rudders, like whenever you're driving a boat. When you got to think, roads are designed to have crowns on them, so then as it rains, the water runs off that road. Well, on your wheelie bars, you could actually set one lower than the other one, so when you take off, the road automatically is kind of veering this way to the ditch. You can actually set yourself up to where your car launches, wheelie bars come down, and pushes you a little bit this way to make sure you go straight down the road.
So now that's something that I hadn't even thought about. That's the difference between the drag strip and the street, is that crowning.
Absolutely right.
That's something you really have to take into account.
You do, and the way you set up a car for the street versus the strip is so different. I mean, honest to goodness, if I go from even a no prep race versus a strip, or no prep race versus the actual street,
right.
And then you got all the variables. There's one time on the show, man, we raced on glass fault. Okay, and I'm telling you right
sound
now,
good.
oh man, it was such a pain to try to get down. But you got to figure, glass fault, asphalt, concrete.
Right.
All those surfaces are so different in the way that they will grab a hold of that tire, and how many people are going down in front of you, how cold it is outside. So many variables. That street really is the great equalizer. You're throwing a tune against the street. That's what you're trying to race against.
If the race was a pie chart, 100%, how much of that race do you think is won before you get to the starting line with knowledge, setup, and that?
Oh my gosh. I would say if you've got the right mechanical equipment to do it, it's got to be close to 80, 90%. The driver's got to do his job too.
Right.
In that you can't just, fall asleep, it's there eating a sandwich before you take off and launch. But there's a lot of things that go on inside of the cockpit. A lot of guys think, well, you just get inside, hold the brake down, let go, and hit the gas, and there you go. There's a lot of things drivers have to think about, a lot of things that you have to do, whether it's turbo, supercharging, or nitrous for that matter. Lots of things happen.
There's a lot of homework that goes into winning at street racing.
There's a ton of homework. And if you can ever get to the point where you can make a hit or two prior to street racing on it, that right there is the homework and education that you need to make a winner.
So that's why it's so important when you see the Memphis versus New Orleans versus Oklahoma City having home track, is it's not track is a track is a track. You're talking about the difference in street shape and compound where that's really a big difference.
Oh yeah, it's like in whether or not you get to use water, whether or not you get to use pimp juice or whatever additive that you want there, and the mixture that you get to use with pimp juice, with MEK versus, all that makes a ton of difference, because you got to think, we're setting the cars up to have quite a bit of weight on the back. So let's just say that car gets a ton of bite on it initially, you're gonna go up in the air, and if the other guy's got his set right, it's just a straight gone.
Awesome. So Josh, I want to thank you for inviting us in here to your shop. It was really a cool treat to get to look around in here and see all the cool things you got. This year is going to be a lot of fun. Is it safe to say there's some surprises this year coming up?
Oh, I think it's very safe to say that there's going to be a whole lot of surprises coming up. You got to think this show coming out's a game changer. It really is, and I am super, super, super excited about it.
It's awesome. The show debuts January 15th on Discovery Channel
At 9/8 Central, so make sure you're watching.
And any final thoughts going out?
You know, it's one of those things that if you look around at the future and about things that could possibly be coming down the road, you'll really, really, really want to make sure that you tune into the show.
You don't want to miss it. January 15th on the Discovery Channel, Street Outlaws, Memphis. Thanks a lot, Josh.
Appreciate it, Craig.